Good evening, everybody. We do have a board evening tonight, even though it is Julia's birthday. So happy birthday, Julia, to our village manager. 26 looks good on you, Julia. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, will you call the roll?
Yes, Trustee Lautner.
Here.
Trustee Zara.
Here.
Trustee Council.
Here.
Trustee Sheehan.
Here.
Trustee Stewart is absent. Trustee Caputo.
Here.
President DeCipio.
Here.
A quorum is present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Our first item is presentation of the fiscal year 2023 annual comprehensive financial report. Larry?
Thank you, Mr. President. As you all recall, every year the village is required to undergo a audit report. And last year, the village selected Sikich as the village auditor. And so tonight we have a representative from Sikich, Anthony Cervini, and he is going to take the board through the audit report.
Thank you, Larry. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Sikich, it's my honor to be here this evening, present the results of the village's annual comprehensive financial report for your year ended April 30th, 2023. I'll highlight a few items for you in that annual comprehensive financial report. Feel free to follow along. I'll give page numbers as we go through. Starting on page Roman numeral 3, this is the printed on village letterhead. This is referred to as the transmittal letter. Always like to recommend to the board in terms of looking at the annual comprehensive financial report to look at the transmittal letter, look at that in conjunction with the management's discussion and analysis, which we'll cover in just a few moments here. Transmittal letter, though, is a somewhat unique component within a financial statement document there. It allows management the chance to provide some subjective discussion of what's occurred during the course of the year. Really the only spot that you'll see in this document where management has the opportunity to look towards the future in terms of some of the initiatives and key projects that you have going on. So I recommend reading that, again, in conjunction with the management's discussion and analysis. Turning past the page numbers with the Roman numerals, you'll come to page number 1 on Sikich letterhead. This is the first component within the financial section of your annual comprehensive financial report. Titled the Independent Auditor's Report, pleased to present to the President and trustees this evening that we've issued a clean, unmodified opinion on the financial statements, again, as of and for your fiscal year ended April 30th, 2023. That clean, unmodified opinion is the highest level of assurance that we can provide as auditors. It means the financial statements, in our opinion, are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. You'll also note in that report in the second section titled Change in Accounting Principle, Village did have to implement a new accounting standard this year. Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB Statement 87, was effective for this year, so that was incorporated into the village's financial statements. A few pages back, page 5, you'll see another report printed on Sikich letterhead titled the Independent Auditor's Report on Internal Control over Financial Reporting and on Compliance in Accordance with Government Auditing Standards. This is a separate report that's required whenever the village expends greater than $750,000 in federal funds or a combination of $500,000 of state and federal funds. So the village did exceed those spending thresholds this year from a federal and state grant standpoint. So this opinion was required. Two things that we look at on this opinion. First, there's an unmodified opinion in terms of it looks at, as it relates to the internal control, noting that we found no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in the village's internal control. The following page also addresses compliance, noting that our testing did not indicate any instances of non-compliance. So again, clean reporting in terms of that side of things as well. Beyond that report, you'll come to page MD&A 1, titled The Management's Discussion and Analysis. This is as you're flipping through, this is a large document. There's a lot of information there. So if you're talking to folks or looking at where to point them for the executive summary, the management's discussion and analysis piece really is the place to do that. Includes information from the current fiscal year as well as comparative information from the prior year. Most valuable part of that document, though, is it explains why those figures have changed from one year to the next. So it takes the financial information, provides some context to the reader in terms of what drove the changes. If you want to turn past the rest of the MD&A pages, and I promise the page numbers will not get any more complicated at this point. Here they get back to kind of regular page numbers, but pages 7 and 8 on the statement of net position. So the next two schedules I talk about, the statement of net position and the statement of activities, present information at your government-wide level. So the statement of net position, it's an economic resources measurement focus. These are full accrual basis of accounting schedules. The intent that the GASB has with these schedules is to present the village's financial information as comparably as it possibly can to what you would see in a private sector financial statement here. So all of your capital assets, any long-term liabilities are included as part of this schedule. The number to focus on here is on the bottom of page 8 in the net position section, also referred to as your equity at the, again, government-wide level. Your net position for your governmental activities, this includes your general fund, your other tax-supported funds, was a deficit balance of about $600,000 at April 30th, 2023. That's about a $1.6 million improvement from the year prior on that. Again, these include not only any long-term debt that might be issued, but also any pension liabilities, which I'll highlight at the end of my presentation as well. So again, big picture presentation there. Pretty small in terms of what that deficit is. There's nothing to be concerned about. You have other amounts broken into the various restricted categories based on those external spending restrictions that exist. And then finally, your net investment in capital assets. So that's your capital assets, including the village infrastructure, less any debt that was issued to acquire those amounts. The next two pages, pages 9 and 10, are the statement of activities. Statement of activities, presents, again, same level of information, economic resource measurement focus. This is your big picture income statement here. If we look at the 5th line from the bottom on page 10, titled Change in Net Position, this will present the village's operational results for the year on that economic resources basis. So you'll see for your governmental activities had an increase about $3.1 million. Your business type activities, your water and sewer funds increased 1.5. So overall, the village's net position increased $4.7 million for fiscal year 2023. The following two pages, pages 11 and 12, present the balance sheet for your governmental funds. This is the information that you're more likely to see on a month-in, month-out basis in terms of your modified accrual. So those capital assets, those long-term debt, the pension amounts, for example, have come out of those presentations. These are really your operating funds that you have available and that you're monitoring closely throughout the course of the year. Major funds presented, your general capital projects and debt service fund. All of the other governmental funds are aggregated into that 4th column. What I'd ask you to look at here is on the bottom of page 12, again, the 3rd line from the bottom in the general fund column. You'll see the general fund balance at April 30th was $9.4 million. Always recommend comparing that to what your general fund expenditures were for that same time period there. So you're about 100%, you're just under 100% in terms of kind of what your fund balance reserves are. So a very healthy fund balance within your general fund. So well positioned from a general fund standpoint. Page 14 is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for your governmental funds. Again, looking 5 lines from the bottom here, you'll see the net change in fund balance. So again, this is at that modified accrual. Looking at your current financial resources, you can see the results there. So the general fund increase, a little over $1.5 million. Your total governmental funds increased about $2.5 million in total. Just to highlight for you on page 17, this is looking at your statement of net position for your proprietary funds. Again, these are your water and sewer fund or your business type activities funds. These funds are intended to cover the full cost of operations as business type activities for that. So that means any depreciation on your capital asset, any interest, things of that nature there that you have in those funds, covered within those funds. Pleased to report to the board that you present and are able to show a unrestricted net position positive amounts for both your water fund, $5.9 million, and about $1.6 million for your sewer fund. So both funds well positioned from a net position standpoint there. The following couple schedules that you can see will present your income statement as well as your statement of cash flows. You can also look at those two schedules and see that both funds generated positive operating income as well as positive cash from your operating activities there. Those are indicative that structurally those funds are functioning as you've designed them to in terms of being able to operate as standalone entities. The last items I'll cover for you this evening, I just wanted to always highlight Pensions are always a topic just to be aware of in terms of what those balances are. So if you turn to page 63, so as you get to page 63, this is the schedule of the employer's net pension liability or net pension asset and related ratios. We'll talk about the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund first. So a two-page schedule here, but really in the far right column, the 2023 information that you have there, you'll see the percentage of 101.89% for IMRF. So as of that time period for 2023, 101.89% funded in IMRF. Again, IMRF is really the gold standard in terms of defined benefit pension plans here in the state for that. So very well funded there. Now, these numbers, in terms of the funded ratios or the planned fiduciary net position as a percentage of those liabilities, there is volatility with those numbers. So as the market ebbs and flows, as you see changes to various actuarial assumptions there, you might see some volatility there. The biggest piece, whether it be for IMRF, where you have to pay the mandated employer contribution for that, or in the case of police pension, where you get that actuarial valuation, actuary tells you here's what the recommended actuarially determined contribution is there. The best thing you can do is continue to make those full actuarially determined contributions. So if you look at page 65, you see the same information for the police pension fund. As of April 30th, 2023, about 57% funded on the police pension fund standpoint. I would say, from a consistency standpoint, from a benchmark standpoint for other communities there, within the range of what we see on that, generally most are within, I would say, that kind of 60 to 80% range in terms of the funded status for those funds there. Again, biggest piece you can do, particularly now that the consolidation of those funds has happened at the statewide level there, making those full actuarially determined contributions there, reviewing those assumptions as part of that process that the actuary is using. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Do want to thank Julia, thank Larry, and the rest of the staff for their efforts in getting us all the information related to the audit. We're going to be getting started here pretty soon on the April 30th, 2024, and kind of get back on schedule. It was kind of a unique year with turnover and changes on that end. So looking forward to getting to work, but happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we're in a good spot because of the good people that we have. And that's Larry and Julia and all the other people sitting around these tables, and we're very fortunate. So with that, Trustee Lautner, anything?
Well, what I could add to that is, very pleased with the results and the efforts here that's gone into the report. And I think, it being an unmodified report is obviously what we always look for. And just to be clear and make sure I understand, I think what I hear you saying to interpret your comments is that we're in a very solid position, being managed very, very well. As caretakers of the village's funds, so making sure that I'm reading this correctly, that looks like that we're in very solid condition.
That's correct.
Financial position.
Yes, that's correct.
Right. I've had a chance to go through some of the other reports that were part of this. Are you going to touch on any of those?
I'm happy to answer any questions there. Generally, I would just highlight for the board in terms of that as well from we issue certain reports over the TIF examination reports and then our board communication. Our board communication is the document where if we did have anything that rose to the level of a significant deficiency or material weakness, those would be communicated as part of that document there. We did note a few items that didn't reach either of those levels there, so we just generally referred to as deficiencies based on the standards there. We've already had conversations with Larry as part of those as well in terms of things that could be implemented to address some of those things there. But overall, very sound internal control structure for the village.
And I know it is it's an auditing term to say deficiencies, but from what I understand, it's recommendations for even further improving the process.
Correct, and internal control as a general rule has a cost-benefit component to it, right? So if there were things that we felt elevated the risk from a significant deficiency or material weakness standpoint there, those would be addressed, and those would be more, kind of more firm recommendations to say you really need to do something here. This could create a problem for you if you don't address it. The items that we did note there certainly didn't raise to that level, more so operating efficiencies, just strengthening that overall control structure.
Yeah, and I did have a chance to review those, and I think there are plans in place in each one of the suggestions to address those recommendations. So was pleased to see that. Actually, a question I have about Sickich. Is that your primary business, is municipality auditing, or what part of your business is focused on municipalities versus other entities?
Sure. So I have I have the privilege and honor of heading up our state and local government practice at the firm. So we have about 70 people under my direct supervision that work exclusively on state and local government audits there. So while we certainly do a lot of other work in terms of our commercial work, our nonprofit, employee benefits, things of that nature, this has long been a dedicated portion of our practice. What we found over the past couple of years especially is many firms have completely exited the local government space. We're running the opposite direction, leaning into that and finding that this is really an opportunity. We've got a great team. That's the best part of my job, is working with my clients and the team that I get to work with, who get to come out and are doing the detailed work on that and being able to perform those functions on that. We look at kind of our retention of our team on that, which public accounting is for folks that know, generally a high turnover field there. My average tenure of our management group is 10 plus years on that. So definitely an area of focus for us, long has been and will continue to be.
Great. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. President.
Trustee Wagner. Trustee Council?
Thank you, President DeCipio. I have one question. It pertains to the fiduciary net position and the pension. I can see that it's targeted this year for 56.89%. Do you have any recommendations that you can make to get that into that range of 60 to 80% that I know we used to achieve, but can you make some suggestions to get back there?
Certainly. So in terms of, as you look at the fiduciary net position and the funded status of those plans, there's a couple different ways to go about doing that. One is to look at the assumptions that the actuary is using as part of that calculation, make sure that those are still valid, accurate assumptions as part of that. But being able to, again, fund that actuarially determined contribution is part of that as well. The best way to make an immediate impact on there would be to take that actuarial determined amount there and fund above and beyond that if the village is in the opportunity and has the position to be able to do so on that. You could also work with the actuary to determine a plan to say if we wanted to get to 70% funded, for example, as part of that as well. Being able to say, well, what would that take for us to be able to do that and factor that into the budgetary process as well and determine that. Oftentimes, if you have a surplus in the general fund, for example, those amounts often get moved over to a capital projects fund for future capital needs. We have seen some municipalities that we work with who have made additional pension contributions to be able to try to bump up that funded status there. The benefit of being able to do that as well is, in theory, if you're at that higher funded status, higher funded ratio of the plans there, it could have the effect of reducing future contributions on that as well. So there is benefit there. I just caution in terms of that as well. Always a good thing to be better funded and be able to do that there. Also knowing that there are things that are out of your control with it as well. I use the example when we look at the actuarial assumptions. If there's a mortality assumption that goes into it there and we say that, okay, folks are living, a year longer now, that impact of that, what seems like a relatively small change to an actuarial table there can have a pretty significant impact on those numbers there. So far and away, the best thing I can do and the best advice I can give is continue to make that, fund at that actuarially determined contribution level, and being able to do that, that's going to be the best opportunity for you to bump up that funded ratio, and then look for those ways to potentially fund additionally if that's the direction the board wants to go.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other questions from the board? Trustee Wagner?
Thank you, Mr. President. I did have one more area in scanning through some of the initial reports. There's a lot of, I don't want to refer to them as great GASBs, but there's a lot of GASBs that are on the horizon. And I'm just curious as to your perspective on how much impact that is going to have on the municipalities and specifically ours. I mean, there's a lot of them that are on the table for, being brought forward.
Yes, we would enjoy if they took their foot off the gas every once in a while up in Connecticut for us there, but certainly have been busy. There's really two standards that I think that are coming down the pike that will have the most impact for the village in terms of that. One is effective for your April 30th, 2024 fiscal year end. That's GASB statement number 96. That's on subscription-based information technology arrangements, or the acronym that's used for that is called SPIDAs. It's basically a fancy way of talking about IT leases or IT contracts there. So if you have the right to use someone else's software, GASB is having municipalities record a liability related to those amounts. It's offset by an intangible asset as well, so it's balance sheet neutral, but it's just a presentation standpoint in terms of that. That process involves kind of gathering that information and getting that information pieced together. That's the more cumbersome component to that, is just gathering all the data, making sure that you have a good population of what those amounts are to implement that standard. The standard, the other standard that I think will have an impact, and we did have one of our municipalities, you can actually, if you're a glutton for punishment, I would say, and looking at other financial statements there, the Village of Palatine early implemented this back for their December 31st, 2022 year end. They early implemented this standard, but it's GASB statement 101 on compensated absences. So right now, what we call compensated absences or time off, accrued vacation, all different things that can flow into that number there. Historically, what's been reported for that is if someone were to leave the village's employ as of your year end there, accrued vacation being, based on state statute, is required to be paid out there. So what's reported right now is amounts related to that. If everyone, the example we use, the easiest way to think about it, if everyone quit on April 30th, what would the village have to pay out as a check to those employees for the accrued vacation? That's what's recorded now. GASB has changed the focus of that standard to look at that a little bit more, a little bit in a more granular look at that, to say, okay, well, if we have other types of time off where we're paying someone not to work, that could be sick time, comp time, things of that nature there, what component of that is actually going to be used as sick time versus sick time that may be converted to pension service credits, things of that nature there. What it's going to require staff to do is basically go through, determine some assumptions as part of that as well. To me, that is an alignment with what GASB has done, quite frankly, since they issued the pension standards. When we go back to statements 67 and 68, or the other post-employment benefit, or OPEB standards in 74 and 75, they're trying to, and to some extent to a fault, I think, gather any potential liability that may be out there and have that information available for a financial statement user there. One could argue that, well, you're coming up with an estimate when it comes to sick time, for example, right? It's how much are we going to use? Well, that could ebb and flow based on a million different factors as part of that as well. But those are the two that are going to require the most legwork in terms of gathering the data, coming up with some of the assumptions on that as well. Few other ones out there, don't expect them to have a significant impact for you, though.
Yeah, it looked like it was a pretty extensive list, but these are the two to
Those are the two that are really going to
stay tuned for.
Yep,
Yeah, thank you.
my pleasure.
That's all, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Long. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you so much for the great report,
you.
and
My
look
pleasure.
forward to going through this document with Larry.
Very good. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, public participation. If you care to address the board, please step up to the mic and give us your name.
Charles Bruick, 510 North Brainerd. If you hate teens, students, traffic congestion, if you hate noisy Saturday afternoon events, why would you buy a house bang next to a high school? St. John's Military Academy, established in 1908, or Nazareth Academy, established in 1899, have been residents of the Ogden-Edgewood site for over a century. The site was a high school before any present residents were even born. If you, Mr. President, and trustees, were fair when a resident complains about parking or congestion or high school students, the first question you would ask would be, when you bought your house bang against a high school campus, what did you expect? If Nazareth were a public high school and three residents complained, I'd imagine you just say, go put up a for sale sign if you don't like it. But you allow residents to blame and persecute Nazareth Academy for being a high school. Will this body put up no stopping or standing 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. school days signs around Forest Road School if 3 residents complain the morning drop-off congestion blocks their driveway? If the new Aldi becomes so popular that traffic congestion and parking problems spill into the neighborhood and 3 residents complain, are you going to penalize Aldi? In 2006, it seemed this body decided to pretend Nazareth High School did not exist. The narrative changed from Nazareth being a respected member of our community to Nazareth as a nest of intruders, troublemakers, and outsiders. Nazareth as the enemy. So, I feel your treatment of Nazareth Academy has disintegrated, and that I am a parent of 4 children that went there, and I think you should look at Nazareth Academy as an important institution rather than treat it as if it was the enemy. The excessive parking bans come from an unfair treatment of Nazareth, I feel. That's the only reason the bans are in place at all. They should be looked at again, and as a LaGrange Park resident, I think it is criminal how you treat Nazareth. It's awful. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. I'm going to disagree with you, though, respectfully.
Oh, of course you will.
Of course. I've seen what our staff has done and bent over backwards to help Nazareth through their constructions, through their lighting, for the football field, through the noise ordinances. They have done a tremendous job working with Nazareth. Now, parking is the only issue that is generating all this discourse about how we've treated Nazareth. That's really unfair. The parking issue, they have plenty of parking on their site if they want to, and not having students park on our streets. But no way did we ever victimize Nazareth. No way did we ever disown Nazareth. We love Nazareth, and we'll do everything we can to make them happy. But we've got residents we need to keep happy too. So I hope that that discourse that you're hearing does not continue.
I'll just say that the 3 residents met with the
Traffic and Safety
Committee.
Right.
And though it was those just 3 residents that caused this whole South Harding Road, Harding Woods parking ban and all that kind of stuff. That is really unfair.
Right, and this is the residents though. But Nazareth, we've always bent over backwards to help them, but we have to stand up for sometimes what is right in our community. But we've worked with Nazareth to make them the beautiful campus that they have today.
3 residents.
Thank you, Charles. Okay, anyone else? No one else in the community here? Consent agenda. Hagan?
Thank you, Mr. President. The items on this evening's consent agenda are as follows. A, approval of the minutes for 1, Village Board meeting February 27th, 2024. 2, Village Board work session meeting March 12th, 2024. 3, Village Board closed session meeting March 12th, 2024. B, action, accounts payable and payroll summary, motion 1, to authorize the president and chairperson of the finance committee to sign the register for bills and authorize the treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in payment of operating bills and salaries as itemized in the check registers. And motion 2, to authorize the village treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in the payment of payroll and other bills that become due between this date and the next village board meeting with subsequent approval of the payroll register and voucher register by the Board of Trustees at its next meeting.
Entertain a motion to approve consent agenda as presented. So moved. A second?
Second.
Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zar?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Next up is our village manager, Julia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have an update for the village board regarding the west side parking restrictions. As the board recalls, last month the board remanded the restrictions back to the Traffic Safety and Engineering Committee, where the committee received feedback. They reviewed the feedback, and they also considered the public comment that was provided at that meeting. As a result of the feedback received and the direction provided by the village board, the committee is making a recommendation, or had made a recommendation to the village board to reduce the restrictions as well as the number of signs where the restrictions will remain. Much of this work was done is my understanding, to the satisfaction of the attendees that were there. And this will be coming back to the village board for their consideration and approval in April. One thing I would note is prior to any work that was done related to the restrictions that were implemented in the first place, this has been an ongoing issue on the west side for quite a few years. We did meet with Nazareth Academy on brainstorming ideas, at least on 2 occasions that I specifically remember, and maybe even more than that, 3. So we did not work without communication with Nazareth Academy, and we do work very well with them and have a very good relationship with them. And with that, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Administration Committee, Trustee Council.
Thank you, President DeCipio. The administration report is as follows. Community Volunteer Day. The village's annual Community Volunteer Day will take place Saturday, May 18, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Volunteers will provide assistance to older adults in the community who need help with basic lawn care and spring cleaning. This day of service is a great opportunity for individuals, families, and organizations to support their neighbors and make a positive mark on the community. Visit the village's website to register for the event or to request volunteer assistance. Contact Maggie Jar for more information. Community Arbor Day nominations. National Arbor Day is Friday, April 26th. The village is accepting nominations to plant a tree in honor or in memory of a person or group that has made a positive contribution to the community. Trees are planted in a public space during a ceremony, and a small plaque is installed at the base of the tree. Visit the village's website to download the nomination form and submit your nomination by April 5th. Contact Sandy Backledge for more information. The next item that I have to report is the Building Services Coordinator recruitment. The purpose is to approve posting the Building Services Coordinator position announcement in anticipation of an upcoming employee retirement. The general background is with the upcoming retirement of the building and fire specialist in June of 2024, the fiscal year 24-25 budget proposes to separate the current position into 2 roles, a full-time building service coordinator in the building department and a part-time administrative assistant in the fire department. The Finance Committee discussed the proposed position plans at the March 12, 2024 meeting and communicated its support for the new positions. Given the essential support needed to deliver great customer service and continue the day-to-day activities of the building department, the committee also communicated its support for approving the Building Services Coordinator position and initiating the recruitment as soon as possible. Staff has prepared the attached position announcement to highlight the essential job functions, salary range, and benefits package for the recruitment. The salary range reflects the COLA adjustment proposal in the fiscal year 24-25 budget. The salary for the new position will be covered 100% by the building department budget as opposed to the current position that is covered 70% by the building department and 30% by the fire department. This item is for discussion and action. Therefore, I'd like to make a motion to approve posting the Building Services Coordinator position announcement with the salary range of $52,173 to $75,120.
A motion, do I have a second? Second. Second discussion, Trustee Karen?
Thank you, President DeCipio. The in light of the experience and the well-rounded knowledge that the current employee has, and she's been obviously very astute and done a terrific job for us. I can definitely see the need to hire somebody on par with that, as well as to have another position and, to dovetail into all of this, because nobody is going to have her experience and her expertise. So I think that it would serve the village well to have these 2 positions. So basically, I'm in favor of the Building Services Coordinator position. I did have one question for Julia regarding the salary range. being that it's this type of range and you're only looking for a high school diploma or equivalency, is that enough?
Thank you for the question. It's a good one. If you don't mind, I'd like to defer it to Maggie because
Okay.
she did the work on all of the, she and Ed together did all of the work on gathering the data to make sure that this salary or wage range is at where it should be. Maggie?
Thank you. We did pull data for the salary ranges of close to 25 similar positions in the region and some of our neighboring communities to see how our current building and fire specialist salary range stacks up against those building department coordinator type positions or permit techs. This range we thought was really competitive as it is now. And we also looked at a number of the job postings over the last several months for similar positions, and we do think the minimum qualifications very closely match what we see in other communities as well. So we're looking at the qualifications for many similar positions, and we're looking at those salary ranges. This salary range does seem quite competitive for the job. Do you want to
Thank
add
you,
anything,
Maggie.
Director Hurst? Anything to add?
Obviously agree because we worked on it together. But I think what I see too is that because I did think about adding maybe, junior college or 2-year degree or something like that, associate's degree. But then you start moving in positions where that's a specialist in maybe a different type of field. So it's such a niche that it's hard to come up with a lot of qualifications. I think it's really going to come down to the interview process and their work experience and what they bring to the table.
Great. Thanks for all of your help in getting the necessary background done. Thank you. So nothing further, President DeCipio.
Thank you, trustee council. Any other comments? Seeing none, Megan, will you call the roll?
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, trustee council.
Thank you, President DeCipio.
Okay, next, building and zoning committee, trustee Zora.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to report the building department activities for February 2024. 36 building permits were issued in February compared to 37 in February 2023. As of February, the pace of permit submittals year to date is similar to the pace of submittals this time last year. Estimated construction costs for the month were just over $800,000, which is slightly less than the $926,408 that was realized in February 2023. Permit fees collected last month equaled $14,644, which is less than the $19,574 of permit fees collected in February of last year. 137 building inspections were conducted this past month compared to 114 in 2023. 4 were not approved. Total of 14 new code enforcement cases were recorded last month. 9 of those projects were closed out, and the remaining 5 cases required further code enforcement action. I have one item that's for discussion and action. In 2020, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the regulations contained in the Restore Illinois plan, the Village Board approved an ordinance allowing for temporary outdoor dining. The ordinance allowed existing restaurants to apply for a temporary use permit to engage in outdoor dining through December 31st, 2020. Ordinance number 1130. The ordinance also allowed the approval for temporary outdoor dining to be issued administratively rather than requiring the typical 3 to 4 month zoning review process. The Village Board went on to approve 4 extensions of this policy through June 30th, 2021, Ordinance 1134, December 31st, 2021, Ordinance 1146, December 31st, 2022, Ordinance number 1174, and December 31st, 2023, Ordinance number 1203. Under Phase 5 of the Restore Illinois plan, the economy has since fully reopened and indoor dining restrictions have been lifted. Despite resuming typical business operations, the Village anticipates restaurants will want to continue to offer outdoor dining as a way to extend dining capacity and provide patrons with multiple dining options. In order to provide continued support to our restaurant community, and given the sustained interest in outdoor dining for both restaurant owners and patrons, staff recommends adopting an ordinance allowing for temporary outdoor dining through December 31st, 2024. Restaurants that were previously allowed to provide outdoor dining will be required to obtain a new temporary use permit and any required building permits before proceeding. Staff recommends adopting the ordinance approving the extension of temporary zoning and outdoor dining. Staff has engaged the village zoning consultant to consider a potential amendment to the zoning code to include outdoor dining as a permitted use, temporary use, subject to certain conditions. Staff intends to further develop this use standards for temporary outdoor dining as part of the upcoming 31st Street Streetscape Improvement Plan. I'd like to make a motion, an ordinance allowing for temporary outdoor dining.
Motion, do I have a second? Second. Discussion, trustee Zora?
I think this is very important to our restaurants, and I'm certain that a lot of them are going to ask for this year, and I know that residents enjoy it, so I definitely think we should move forward with this and approve it.
Thank you, trustee Zora. Any other comments? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara? Yes. Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
The next item I have is for information only. In 2017, the village launched a solar rebate program. The program offers a rebate for solar panel installation for our residents and business owners. A rebate of 100% of building fees may be provided for installation of residential solar energy systems and 50% of the building permit fees for installation of non-residential solar energy systems. The rebate does not include plan review fees. Since inception, the village has received 70 permit applications for the installation of solar roof panels. Of those 70 permit applications, 69 for residential and 1 was for Sisters of St. Joseph. None were for other commercial properties. A summary of the program's activities since inception in 2017 through the end of February 2024 is as follows. The village has completed 70 plan reviews for building permits, 140 building and electrical inspections, $7,000 in plan review fees, and has refunded a grand total of $22,578 in solar rebates to the residents. 2 residents have applied for a second permit to add additional solar panels on their property. Each resident is eligible to receive a second solar rebate. So I talked to Ed a little bit before the board meeting, and I'm going to tip this off to him. But first I want to make a comment. And what he had flagged in here is that we are not really equaling out here with fees for permitting inspections. So after talking with Ed, I think we should consider increasing the inspection fees just to cover staff time. I don't think we should be down for this. I think it's a great program and we should continue doing it, but I definitely think we need to make sure that we're making up for the costs of staff time in this. So Ed, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great program. I just recently had a seminar on solar and EV, and what the climate is and the way it's changing. And obviously it's the wave of the future, not only electric cars and how that's going to impact the building department, but also solar and how that's doing it as well. And then that trickles down into how it's going to impact the grid and the system and the bigger picture than just what's happening in a resident's home. This was interesting, and I think, it was just plugging away, business as usual. But then when the second round of rebates came up, that was kind of what said, first of all, did this ever happen before or not? And it didn't. But I think in the scheme of things, it's fair to the resident because they're making the improvement and they're entitled to the rebate. So, but we looked at the opportunity then and said, well, let's just recap of what's happening since the program started 7 years ago. So this is just kind of a summary of the state of the program as of the end of February. If you look at, there's a chart in there, what you'll lead at, a majority of the activity has been the last 2 or 3 years. I didn't do that. I know over 50% the last 2 years alone of the 7 years. So makes me think, what was the reason back in 2007 when we started the program, and was there a certain reason we were trying to incentivize it? And then is that still in place today? So I think it's just going to grow and get more and more popular. So I think there's a point to just level set and make sure we're in the right space.
Thank you, Ed. Any comments? Trustee Leitner?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Trustee Zara's point is well taken, that we need to look at those fees and make sure that we are recapturing the expense of our staff and employees that are involved in this. And, and I think it has been some time since we have looked at our fees, and that's something that probably as part of the budgeting process, I know we talked a little bit about, but probably do need to make sure that our fees are recapturing the expenses related to the fees that we're charging, and that's certainly one of them. But it is a great program. You're exactly right, and but we do need to keep in mind what is the cost to provide these rebate programs and do the inspections. So great point with that.
Great. Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Thank you, Trustee Zora.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay, Engineering Capital Project Committee, Trustee Lautner.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the Engineering Capital Projects area this evening for the month of February, Village opened bids for the 23-24 sewer lining project on February 5th, and the low bidder was National Power Rodding Corporation with a bid of $148,623. Project was awarded at the February 13th workshop meeting. This is a yearly maintenance program in the village that involves lining sections of sewer that are in poor condition before they are in need of complete replacement. This year, both combination sewers and storm sewers will be lined. The project will be completed before the end of April. Second item is the village opened bids for the 23-24 sewer cleaning and televising project on February 5th. The low bidder was National Power Rodding Corporation with a bid of $21,502.25. The project was awarded at the February 13th workshop meeting. After contract execution, the contractor will begin work and should complete the project by the end of March. This is a yearly maintenance program to keep the sewers functioning at full capacity and also document sections that need repair. And the last item is the village opened bids for the 23-24 sewer repair program on February 13th. And the low bidder was Suburban General Construction with a bid of $71,190. The project was awarded at the February 27th board meeting. After contract execution, the contractor will begin work and should complete the project by the end of April. The project involves point repairs on sewers located throughout the village that were identified by recent televising and cleaning projects. And that concludes the report from the Engineering Capital Projects, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Public Safety Committee, Trustee Caputo.
Thank you, President DeCipio. First list on my agenda is the Police Department Summary of Activities for February 2024. In addition to the attached statistical summaries, the following items are being reported to apprise the Village President and Board of Trustees on current Police Department operations for the month of February 2024. The total number of crimes reported for the first 2 months of 2024 are approximately 28% lower than last year, with 39 incidents reported this year compared to 52 in 2023. Traffic enforcement is at 539 total tickets issued through February of 24. Overall police activity for the month of February 2024 is at 970 total incidents. Of those 970 total incidents, 70 were assisted to the fire department, 180 were self-initiated building or park checks, 255 were traffic stops, and 72 were closed home checks. Department members attended 169 hours of training along with the completion of required monthly online training and Lexipol daily training bulletins. 493 hours of field training were completed within the month. Commander Morocco and Chief Contois attended a School District 95 crisis plan meeting. The Chief of Police and additional members of the Police Department attended the State of the Village address that was held at Post 031. The Police Department completed their mock assessment for ILEAP accreditation. Sergeant Griffin and Detective Spurgosh attended the Illinois Special Olympics kickoff in Bloomington Normal. Chief Contois held a quarterly meeting with Police Department admin staff to discuss current and upcoming changes in Illinois legislation along with departmental changes. Officer Peter Roche retired from the department after suffering injuries in an off-duty vehicle accident. And mark your calendars and do not miss out on the upcoming Police Department special events. There's the Drug Take Back Day, April 27th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the Village Hall. The Grange Police Department, in coordination with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, will host a National Drug Take Back Day. This program offers a safe, convenient, and responsible means of disposing of unwanted or expired medications. Please note only drugs in pill form will be accepted. No liquids, please. Please empty all drugs from their original containers, bottles, or blister packs and place in a sealed baggie for drop-off. Can't make it to the April 27th date? A permanent drop box is located in the Village Hall lobby with drop-off access during regular business hours of 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Please follow the Police Department on our Facebook page at LaGrange Park Police Department, our Twitter account at LaGrange Park PD, and Instagram at LaGrange Park PD. A friendly reminder about securing one's personal property. At all times, please lock your vehicles and residence, especially during overnight hours. If you are going on vacation, please utilize the new online vacation watch portal, frontlinepss.com/LaGrange Park, or log onto the village website and access the portal under the police department page. If you do not have internet access, please feel free to fill out a vacation watch card at the police department between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. And as always, please contact me if you have any questions or need any further assistance. That concludes the police report. I do have the fire report. Fire activities as of February 2024, as requested for insertion in the village board meeting agenda packet. The following is a brief summary of fire department activity highlights for the month of February. As usual, a more comprehensive monthly report is kept within the department for your review. EMS incidents this month equaled 155. There have been 322 year-to-date compared to 293 year-to-date in 2023. Fire rescue incidents this month equaled 47. There have been 101 year-to-date compared to 81 year-to-date in 2023. Staff from fire and police, along with staff from neighboring agencies, again participated in an annual basketball game against the Park Junior High Mighty Patriots Special Olympics team. Department hazardous materials technicians participated in joint training sessions in Bedford Park with members from both MABUS 10 and MABUS 21 hazmat teams. Paramedic Jim Tolf provided in-house classes for several of our paramedics for ACLS, that's Advanced Care Life Support, and PALS, Pediatric Advanced Life Support. Personnel conducted career day presentations to 5th grade classes at Forest Road School and also junior high students at Park Junior High. The annual appreciation dinner was held, sponsored by the Fire Department Foundation. An ambulance 1214 was out of service for multiple days this month for engine repairs. I have a couple of instances of interest. On Friday, February 16th at 9:42 a.m., Chief 1201 responded to a MABUS mutual aid call for hazardous material incident on I-55 near LaGrange Road, closing down I-55 in both directions for several hours. On Sunday, February 18th at 5 a.m., responded to a gas leak in a kitchen at Bethlehem Woods. And on February 21st at 12:12 p.m., a vehicle hit the curb and tree in the 600 block of LaGrange Road, then rolled over. The driver stated she spilled some food and had reached down, causing her to veer. And the final incident on Wednesday morning at 6:09 a.m., a utility pole failed and caught fire immediately next to a new home at 1036 Sherwood. Due to this incident, a Comcast fiber optic cable was damaged, causing a significant outage in the Grange Park and some adjacent communities. I do have one item on my agenda, and that is the paramedic firefighter contract renewal. The general background is the village currently contracts for 6 full-time shift paramedic firefighter personnel from Paramedic Services of Illinois, Incorporated, commonly known as PSI. 2 contract personnel are assigned each 24-hour shift followed by 48 hours off. We have contracted with PSI since 2018 when PSI entered into a merger acquisition with our provider at the time, Public Safety Services Incorporated, or PSSI. And at that time, PSSI had been our contractor for paramedic firefighter services since January of 2002. Overall, we have enjoyed the contractual relationship with PSI and with PSSI prior to that. In June of 2023, the Village Board approved resolution number 23-02, approving a proposed agreement for paramedic services for 2023 through 2027 with PSI. Our current contract expires on April 30th of 2024, but contains an option for renewal that can be extended through April 30th of 2027. In order to renew the contract, states PSI's yearly compensation for services rendered for each year will be evaluated and adjusted to a rate upon which the village and PSI agree in writing, based upon the village's budget and the cost of PSI's employee salaries, benefits, and operational costs. In the absence of a written agreement as to PSI's yearly compensation, this agreement shall expire. And for the current fiscal year, per the contract, PSI is being compensated $705,624 annually. This was based upon an understanding that its starting salary for all new hires would be at least $67,000. This does not include recruitment or signing bonuses, which PSI handles individually based upon experience and or certification. Staff met with PSI, discussed the option of renewing our current contract. The meeting was productive as we discussed current staffing and operational costs, current salary expectations, and base salary comparables of other PSI contracts, among many other factors related to EMS services and cost. And based on that meeting, we requested a 2-year proposal with the following provisions. For year one, May 1st, 2024 to April 30th, 2025, provide a $5,000 annual compensation increase for all current personnel and elevate base starting pay for future hires to $72,000. For year two, May 1st of 2025 to April 30th, 2026, provide a $5,000 annual compensation increase for all existing personnel at the start of that contract year and elevate starting pay for future hirees to $75,000. PSI's proposal is as follows. For the contract year of May 1st, 23 to April 24, the annual cost, monthly cost, and minimum salary, should I read all those numbers on each one of those? Okay. The annual cost, $705,624. The monthly cost is $58,802, and the minimum base salary is $67,000 current. For the second year of May 1st, 24 to April 30th of 25, the annual cost is $751,608. The monthly cost $62,634, and the minimum base salary would be $72,000 proposed. For May 1st of 25 to April 30th, 26, annual cost $800,460, monthly cost $66,705, and a minimum salary of $75,000 proposed. The recommendation is, it is important to note that there are factors in considering the pricing. The EMS staffing shortage still exists, and the EMS employee market is very competitive and still volatile. Aside from the significant cost increase, staff believes a 2-year renewal with the stipulated terms of increasing existing salaries over the 2 years, along with base pay, would keep our contract competitive in terms of employee recruitment and to extend possible employee retention. Following the March Village Board workshop session, staff reconvened its conversation with PSI on pricing for the second year, May 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 26. PSI explained that the increased costs are due to the impacts of higher wages and additional paid leave. In expressing their value of our relationship, PSI offered to reduce the cost of the second year from $810,804 to $800,460 per annum. And the action request is the village board requested that at this March 12th workshop meeting, and there appeared to be consensus. The motion is to approve a 2-year renewal of the current paramedic firefighter services agreement with Paramedic Services of Illinois Incorporated PSI, extended through April 30th of 2026, and an updated agreement reflecting the renewal and corresponding costs through April 30th, 2026 is attached to this memorandum. All other provisions in the agreement remain status quo. And
Second.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you, Trustee Council. Thank you, Trustee Caputo. Any comments from the board? Trustee Council?
Thank you, President DeCipio. We've had a really good working relationship from all the comments that staff has made, and especially from Chief Magos. So I'm in full agreement of extending this, and I think that it's great that the PSI is reducing the cost for the second year. That speaks volumes that they're willing to work with us. So I'm in full support of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Council. Trustee Laudner?
Thank you, Mr. President. As everyone's aware, we did have extensive conversation about this. And while the increases are substantial, it's representative of the demand and the retention issue that we're being faced with, and it actually extends beyond this area. I do have contacts that are actually in the same situation in a couple of different places in the state. And this is a statewide, at least, and I suspect it's probably beyond the state level of finding the right talent, retaining the right talent, and it's a fact of what's going on today in this area, and it's something that we've got to deal with. But no question, the increases are substantial. But the good news is that they do provide an excellent level of service to us, and we have enjoyed that for some time. So it's something that we do need to approve, no question.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Any other comments? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
That concludes my report, President DeCipio.
Thank you, Trustee Caputo.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, Public Works. Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The monthly report for February, staff replaced 2 lead service lines with copper pipe. Staff also repaired 2 collapsed catch basements. DPW began posting notices to residents who have not completed their water service line survey. This work will continue through the spring to maximize the accuracy of our inventory that will be submitted to the Illinois EPA. Pothole repairs have been performed as crews were dispatched frequently to make these repairs. National Power Rotting began cleaning and televising sections of the sewer main. They should complete cleaning by mid-March and begin lining by the beginning of April. A small brush pickup occurred this month due to the high winds and other weather-related events. Dawson's Tree Service has completed the cycle pruning program for the year. Staff completed the in-house portion of the program as well. New equipment arrived for Public Works this week. A new GMC Sierra 2500 pickup truck with a snow plow and a new Cat 262 D3 skid steer with bucket and fork attachments were delivered. The village has been awarded our 2nd gold level water ambassador recognition through ISAWWA. We will be receiving the award at the state conference in April. Staff traveled to Linco Equipment to gain information about new snow and ice equipment for future truck builds. GIS work continues collecting data on village-owned assets along with continued training throughout the village. Water meters were read in Section 2. 15 water monthly bacterial samples were taken along with UCMR5 samples. Various water and sewer work orders were performed along with resident tree concerns and general construction inquiries. Routine maintenance of the department's fleet and equipment was completed as well on police and fire vehicles. Next, we have the 2023-24 village-wide crack sealing project. Staff is seeking the board's approval to award a contract for the 2023-24 crack sealing project. Crack sealing is a pavement management solution that injects fiberized or rubberized fill into the pavement cracks to preserve recently repaved roads. This technique prevents future damage from water infiltrating under the first layer of asphalt, which causes pavement deterioration due to the freeze-thaw cycle. We had 2 bids, Denler Inc., $22,545, SKC Construction Inc., $23,085, engineer's estimate $24,300. The fiscal year 23-24 budget includes $24,500 in MFT funds, 270-70-61500 for this service. Staff recommends approving a contract with Denler Inc. for a not to exceed amount of $24,500. Therefore, Mr. President, at this time, I'll make a motion to approve a contract with Denler Inc. with a not to exceed amount of $24,500 for the 2023-24 village-wide crack sealing program and to authorize the village manager to execute the contract documents.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rick, we've used Denler in the past, right? That name is...
Yeah, this is the same company that won the bid last year as well.
Yeah, and you were satisfied with them?
Very.
Yeah, and I support this. It's preventive. We spend all this money to, get the roads up to shape. This is preventative, maintenance, and I'm for it.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Any comments, Rick? Any other comments you want to make?
No, I mean, it's just, this is something that we do routine maintenance-wise to keep up with these roads so they don't deteriorate so fast, and, it's been successful. With the low pricing, hopefully we can capitalize a little bit more, get some more done. But it's been a very successful program so far.
Great. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
Lastly, Mr. President, 2024 Security and Privacy Fence Project. Staff seeks the village board approval to award a contract to install perimeter fencing and gates at the village storage facility and remove and replace the privacy fence at the beach parking lot. Public Works Department has used the village dump facility for many years to store and stockpile items removed throughout the community for various village services, including leaf pickup, brush, mulch, excavated soils, concrete, and asphalt. Over the years, several large fires have occurred to the brush pile, which resulted in the response of the fire department and Public Works to extinguish them. Staff feels that many of these fires have been deliberately set due to the easy access to the facility. As you know, this site does not belong to the village. The Park District and the IHB own the properties where the dump site is located. The village entered into an intergovernmental agreement with both parties to continue using the site and allow perimeter fence installation. The fiscal year 2023-24 budget, 60% capital, 30% water, 10% sewer, includes $80,000 to install a perimeter security fence with access gates to prevent trespassing and to secure this facility. Once approved, work will commence immediately and be completed before the end of this fiscal year. Also, the privacy fence at the Beach Avenue parking lot needs replacement. The replacement of this fence was included in the RFP to provide a large project to bidders with the hope of capitalizing on economies of scale. To prolong the life of this fence in the future, black aluminum posts and rails will outline composite material slates, increasing the lifespan. $35,000 is included in the draft 24-25 budget. 31st and Barnesdale TIF. If approved, the work will commence after May 1st. You see the security fence and privacy fence bids that came in for contractors for the security fence, the privacy fence, and the totals. Staff recommends approving a contract with First Fence, Company of Hillside, for both fence installations. Therefore, Mr. President, I make a motion to approve a contract with First Fence Company of Hillside in the amount of $73,608 for the 2024 Security and Privacy Fence Project and authorize the village manager to execute the contract documents.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the first I've heard of First Fence doing a commercial project. I know they've done quite a few residential projects, and a lot of people are very happy with them. It's a shame that we have to spend the $70,000, but I think it's a good investment, and it'll, hopefully eliminate the arson problem over there that we have before something worse happens.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Any comments? Trustee Caputo?
Yes, thank you, President DeCipio. I personally have used First Fence for my home residence, and I've recommended to people, and everybody's been happy with them. So I think this is a good route, and the price point, works well with our budget. I agree with Trustee Sheehan. It's a shame we have to spend this money, but this is something that's going to do to help maybe alleviate these fires and give us some additional security on our properties and our sites and our facilities. I think it's a good investment.
Thank you, Trustee Caputo. See no other comments. Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Finance Committee, Trustee Lautner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight's financial report is through the month of February. To summarize the village's general fund financial performance through February 2024, the village has completed 10 months now, or 83% of fiscal year 2024, which began May 1 and concludes on April 30, 2024. Detailed revenue and expense report and comparison charts have been provided for our review in our packets. Fiscal year to date for the general fund revenue is $8,619,092. And that is 80.6% of the annual budget, and 164,652, or just a little under 2% greater than last year. Property tax receipts are 711,810, greater than last year, and that's still primarily due to the timing issue with Cook County's tax extension and collection process. First installment tax bills were mailed later last year and were not due until April, while this year's tax bills were due in March. Other local taxes are lower by 125,433, or about 12%, due to lower utility and telecom tax receipts. Natural gas tax is lower following the decline in prices compared to 2022. Intergovernmental receipts for the period are down 6438, or 0.2% from last year. Sales tax continues to trend above last year, while income tax, state use tax, and personal property replacement tax are lower. A decrease in income tax was expected following the significant increase last year. Based on current Illinois Municipal League, or IML, estimates, the total income tax for the fiscal year will be slightly above budget. Personal property replacement tax is expected to trend lower due to the reallocation of prior year's distributions following a reconciliation by the Illinois Department of Revenue, but still above budget. Licenses and registration fees are at $14,330, or 4.9% lower than the prior year, and that's due primarily to a decrease in the vehicle sticker fees. Permit receipts are $495,914, or 54.9% less than the prior year, and that's primarily due to the higher permit fees last year for the Plymouth Place projects. Charges for services are $102,032, or 11.5% lower than last year, and that's due to ambulance fees revenue offset by payments due to the state of the village's participation in the GEMT program. And the state was behind in collecting their portion of the fee for 2022. Fine revenue is at $19,432, or 24% lower than last year. And miscellaneous revenue is at $216,421, or 127% greater than last year, and that's due to the increase in interest income that we are enjoying. Total general fund expenditures of $8,075,628 are at 79% of the annual budget, and $494,416 are 6.5% greater than last year. And most importantly, for this the discussion is all departments are within budget expenses, and thanks to all the individuals and department managers that are responsible for making that happen. And moving on to the fiscal year 2023 annual comprehensive financial report. And it's the status of where we stand from a finance committee and staff perspective of working on the 2023 annual comprehensive financial report and the report and the audit report that we heard this evening. First, the audit report that we had this evening. And the background on this: the village is required, as we heard earlier this evening, by state law to engage a licensed public accountant or accounting firm to perform an annual audit. Last year, the village board selected Sickich LLP as the village's auditor following a request for proposals process. Sickich has completed the audit for fiscal year 2023 and provided the village with an unmodified opinion, which is the highest response that you would hope to get in those audits, which is the desired outcome in an independent audit. An unmodified opinion means that the financial statements are presented fairly and no exceptions were noted, which would possibly result in material misstatements of the financial information presented. A representative from Sickich was here this evening, as we all heard, and provided us the results of the report. And let's see. Staff recommends that the village board accept the fiscal year 2023 annual comprehensive financial report that was presented this evening. So therefore, I'd like to make a motion to accept the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending April 30, 2023.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I did have a chance to have a little bit of a preview and go through kind of a peruse various sections of it. And of course, the presentation this evening kind of confirmed what we hoped that we would all see, of course, is the unmodified report. And I think the thoroughness of it was very good. So I certainly support acceptance of this annual report.
Any other comments from the board? Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Sorry. Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Trustee Lautner.
And I'm going to move back to the, wanted to get that one out of the way first. It's my story and I'll stick to it. And now for the status of the fiscal year 24-25 budget and 5-year plan. And this is an update on the status of the Finance Committee and staff's meetings regarding the upcoming plan and 5-year plan for the village. Background on this is the Finance Committee convened for 2 highly productive meetings on March 8th and March 20th to review the draft budget and 5-year plan. The committee suggested minor changes to the narrative and approved the following motion. So this is not the following motion was approved. Motion to recommend approval of the 2024-25 budget and 5-year plan with 1 modifications to the narrative regarding lead service line replacement rate methodology. Let me say that again, it's real important, I think. The motion was to recommend approval of the 24-25 budget 5-year plan with 1 modification to the narrative regarding the lead service line replacement rate methodology, and 2, any necessary changes due to the FOP negotiations. The committee favored removing references to a specific lead service rate structure to allow the village board additional time to further discuss rate methodology. This recommendation does not impact budget calculations. Committee did not recommend any changes to the 5-year plan. Committee noted that the village will continue to monitor the condition of the water and sewer funds, given the projections for year 5 of the plan. And in the future, the village may have to consider adjustments to the program capital improvements to ensure the health of the fund. So the next steps after the 2 meetings that the Finance Committee has held, the public hearing on the budget is scheduled for April 9th at 7:15. The budget and 5-year plan will appear on the work session agenda for discussion. Action is anticipated for the April 23rd Village Board meeting. At that meeting, the Village Board will consider the following actions. And at that point, the motion would be to approve a resolution that approves the fiscal year 24-25 operating budget, and there will be a motion to approve the 5-year plan for fiscal year 24-25 through 28-29. So that's the status of the meetings that we've had so far. I'd have to say that I think we had the full committee meet twice and had very, I think it was referred to as productive meetings. I'll call them spirited and productive, with I think an excellent outcome as a result. The committee of myself and Jermaine and Trustee Caputo, and also in attendance was Trustee Council. So I thought that we had lots of really good perspectives and questions and clarifications. So looking forward to that approval process to go forward. I personally, as the committee chair, will not be at the the April 9th meeting, but Trustee Stewart, I believe, will be, and as well as Trustee Caputo. So you will carry that forward. But I think we're in a good position. I think it's a very aggressive, but I think it's a very thorough budget that I'm looking forward to approving. I think staff once again has outdone themselves, if that's an appropriate comment. It's an excellent work that's been put forth here to make this budget what it is, and as I think it's appropriate to share one of the best questions that came up in the Finance Committee from Trustee Stewart was, gee, this is really an aggressive budget. Are we biting off more than we can chew? And I think, I think we all felt, man, there's a lot of things in here that we're looking to do. A very, very excellent question. And I think the response from staff and Julia was excellent, that they've worked very hard at, working through all this, and what is the board asking them to do, what's the village asking them to do, what are the things that we need to stay in compliance with, what are the financial requirements. And I think this is, while it's a very impressive, I think that we've seen from past results with the budgeting, that staff is committed to it, to make it happen, and have all the confidence that we'll have some very favorable results, similar to what we saw tonight with the results of the audit and the financial performance at the end of the year. So I extend, I'm sure on behalf of the Finance Committee, extend appreciation for all the hard work to all the department managers, all the departments that were involved in putting this together, and I look forward to this approval, presentation and approval at the end of April. So anything to add of other committee members?
Trustee Caputo?
Trustee Lautner, thank you. No, I agree. I think we had a great session the other day. Brought up a lot of great things, and yeah, I definitely look forward to getting the resolution, meeting going. And yeah, I don't have any additional comments, but I think you had everything we needed to talk about.
Right, and I do extend appreciation to the committee as well, and those others that attended. And that's all, Mr. President. That's the status. Julia, you or anyone, or Director Miller, anything to add to that?
The one item that I would add to it, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I did have an opportunity to brief the village president on the finance committee meeting. And we did, as staff, have an opportunity to talk about the rate methodology. And so we met last week. We'll meet again this week to talk further about that. And if it's agreeable with the village president and the board, we are prepared to revisit that in May, if that's workable for everybody involved.
Yep. Sounds good.
I have no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Larry. Trustee Lautner, thank you and the committee, Trustee Caputo and Trustee Stewart. It's a great committee to be on, and you guys do a yeoman's job work. And to the staff for preparing all the documents and getting us in the financial position we're in today. So thank you. Thank you, Trustee Lautner.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Other reports, Village Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening.
Our Village Treasurer.
No report tonight, Mr. President.
Our Village Engineer. Our Village Attorney.
No report, Mr. President.
And Commercial Revitalization, Trustee Zorro.
Thank you. I have a few items to report. The Village of the Grange Park and the Grange Park Chamber of Commerce celebrated the grand opening of Happier Now Cafe and Market on March 8th. Congratulations to Chef Andrea and Donna Spilka. Thank you to all who attended and participated in the festivities. Visit Happier Now's website and stop by to support this locally owned business. The Grange Park Chamber of Commerce is hosting Run for the Roses, a 5K race for runners and walkers on Sunday, May 19th at 8 a.m., starting at Forest Road School. Online registration is open, $40 per entry. A portion of the proceeds will benefit Pillars Community Health. SB Friedman is scheduled to make a presentation at the Village Board work session meeting on April 9th. The presentation will focus on the market study and redevelopment potential for the outlot area near north of Jewel, Osco. A similar presentation will be made later this spring for Jiffy Lube and Superior Cleaners properties on North LaGrange Road. Stay up to date on what's happening in LaGrange Park by attending the Village's Commercial Revitalization Committee meetings. The CRC meets regularly to discuss how the Village can best support new and existing businesses and enhance the commercial areas in town. Check the calendar page on the Village's website for upcoming meeting dates and agendas. And then I have one item for information and discussion. On February 1st, the Village issued an RFP for assistance with developing a branding and identity plan. This plan will create a clear, strong, and cohesive identity for the Village and will be used to implement streetscape improvements and improve signage and navigation. A pre-proposal meeting was held on February 15th, and proposals were due March 15th. The Village received proposals from 7 consultants and consultant teams. After reviewing all 7 proposals, staff believes 4 consultants would meet the village board's expectations for this project. Staff proposes to schedule interviews with the following 4 consultants: Kimley Horn, Spark Design, Lakota Group, Muse Design, Community Design, SPAN. Interviews will be held with the Commercial Revitalization Committee in April, and the project is expected to start in May. The village budgeted $60,000 for this project in the proposal of the fiscal year 2024-25 budget. So the only comments that I had is I saw the list of all that had provided proposals, and I know the village is not required to hire or interview the low bidder, and I'm assuming that those selected are the most qualified, and that's the reason why those 4 bidders were selected. Okay, that's all. I have no other comments. If anyone on the board has any comments.
I have one, Trustee Zora, thank you. What's the they were all given the same parameters, correct? For the project? I mean, what's the discrepancy between 28,000 and 146,000?
It's a great question. The low proposal, the 28,750, they did not include some of the scope elements that we requested. So, as an example, the existing inventory analysis was missing from their proposal. So I think that's one of the big reasons their costs came in low. And for staff, it demonstrated that they didn't have a strong understanding of the project, as they did not include pricing for some of the key components. The very high cost proposal, that's a head scratcher, but they did include, I think, 11 individuals to work on the project, which was about more than twice as many individuals as all the other project teams seem to present. So I think all of those billable hours added up to a very high cost proposal. Coincidentally, they had one of the shortest timelines, but the most people working on it, and somehow the cost was very high. So a great question. We did look at those things. Yep.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to committee and collectors reports to approve as presented. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I just have 2 things. A week from tomorrow, Trustee Zora, Trustee Stewart, and Julie and I will be heading down to Springfield for one of our 3 trips. And it's predominantly to work with our lobbyists and the representatives down there concerning our projects and what we need, but also touching on the 1% sales tax and the lead service line. And we're going to hit them all. We're going to hit everything. So I appreciate the trustees that are coming to help support that. Congressman Garcia's conference or video, what do you have, press conference here last week. I was very impressed with our staff in the boardroom, and I think Congressman Garcia stated that to me afterwards. What a nice compliment it was to have it here, because their staff loved our staff and everything ran real well. Those of you that were here, it was a great press conference, and we'll have him every time if he brings that check. He did say to me afterwards, he says he's hoping to get us more. That's only 1/12, less than 1/12 of what we need. So we certainly want more, but it's nice to be on his good side and the representative's good side. So I think we have a good thing going down there and meeting with them. No public participation. Any new business? Seeing none, motion to move into executive session.
I'd like to submit a motion to move into closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining in accordance with 5 ILCS 120/2C2, not to return to regular session until the next regularly scheduled board meeting in this room on April 9th, 2024 at 7:15.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner? Yes. Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan? Yes. Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. We'll move into executive session.